Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hughes at 10. And I think you can hear me because I can see the little meter going up and down. So that's a good start. I've got my beer as requested by Phil. I think he was maybe hoping that I might get some like proper real ale, like a proper person. But sorry, I'm not that classy or not classy. I don't know how it works anymore. When I was a lad, right, if you drank real ale, you're like the least cool person in the pub. And if you drank gin and you were a lady, you were like a little old lady. But now everyone drinks gin, and people who drink like real ale are seen as like the cool hipster types. Don't really understand it, but there you go. Hi Attila, hi Chubai, hi Phil, hi NNTB 1972. That's quite difficult to say out loud. How you doing? So today, not much has happened today, has it? It's been such an eventful week. In fact, it's been such an eventful few weeks. We've got rid of Corbyn, we've got rid of Trump, and we've got rid of Cummings. Maybe for all three of them, we don't quite know. But if we have, that's good. But there are still many people on the hit list to be taken out of politics one way or another. I think Boris Johnson hopefully will be the next to go. Matt Hancock, for his absolutely appalling handling of COVID-19. I think Mitch McConnell needs to take a long walk off a short pier in America. There's quite a few people in positions of power and influence who don't have your best interests at heart, or mine for that matter. So what I thought I'd do today, since not much has happened apart from a hilarious situation where this million MAGA March hashtag was taken over by the K-pop fans, and they just posted loads of pictures of pancakes. So that was it. Just loads of pictures of pancakes. Really funny. Would you give up your island to stick all these wankers on? No, I don't want to. I'll give up my island to stick refugees on, but not those people. They've got enough money; they can buy their own bloody island. What I would like to do with the island is basically have it as somewhere where people that I know and can go for a week and just have an island to themselves and just get away and disconnect from the outside world, but still have internet access in case they desperately need to watch something on Netflix. That's my dream. I'm working on it. I'm working on it behind the scenes. So the only other thing today is this million-person march, which got its name changed halfway through the day when it was evident that 1 million people weren't turning up. In fact, 100,000 people weren't turning up. In fact, very few people are actually turning up, because look at it. Look at the stats. For the amount of noise that these few people are making on social media and in the press and everything, the fact is that all the Democrat voters accept Biden as the president, and half of all Republican voters accept Biden as the next president. So, it's going to be a bit difficult fomenting civil war. But as these idiots march around Washington, D.C. today, and there's also marches going on and rallies going on around America. Quite funny. Trump did a drive past on the way to the golf course. Anyway, so the only thing that worries me is maybe some people on these marches might have a drink and get a bit leery, and then there might be some tension. But I think my favorite photo of the day, which I posted on Twitter earlier, was a picture of a MAGA guy with a MAGA cap on, an American flag, and behind him, in huge big letters, was written "loser," which I thought was really funny. Okay, so what I thought I'd do tonight is just basically talk to you guys. So if you want to just write something, I'll just try and have a conversation as best I can with the live chat. We've got half an hour, so let's dive in here. Could your island join the EU so we could all become citizens? No, Attila, because it's not a sovereign nation. If it was a sovereign nation, it could join the EU. But as it's part of Panama, it'll be a bit difficult for me to break away from Panama. Even though Panama once broke away from Colombia, which I talked about last week, I think. But no, unfortunately, no, that's not going to happen. The best way for English people, I'll say English, because I think there's a path for the Scots and the Northern Irish. Well, Northern Irish people can get an Irish passport, so they don't need to worry about this. But yeah, Scottish and Welsh people, I think, have got a path to going back to the EU in the next few years. I mean, Certainly before the decade's out, I'd say. But English people, don't know. I think you're just going to have to marry someone from the EU. Oh, no, you're not allowed to without permission now. Oh, and they can say no. Oh, well, you just start a business in it. Oh, no, you can't do that. They might say no. Okay, what you want to do is buy yourself a house in France. Oh, you can't do that without permission, can you? Oh, God. Get a job. Oh, no, you can't get a job without permission. Okay, there must be something you can do in another person's country now without permission, like just turn up and do it, I'm sure, without being invited or getting to certain quotas or points or not having any, I don't know, criminal convictions on your record, which might stop you going on holiday to Spain. Wouldn't be my problem. I don't have a criminal record. Hashtag just saying. God, imagine if your favourite football team got into Europe and you couldn't go and watch them because you couldn't get a visa. Again, hashtag just saying. Amazon declared a united Ireland. What, the Amazon or Amazon the company? Evening, folks. Hi, David. Gin used to be an old woman's drink. Now vodka is. You never want to drink what your grandmother did. You know what? It's really weird because when I was growing up, like vodka was the drink that everyone used to drink with, all the girls used to drink with like you pour out a little bit of Coke out the bottle and you fill it up with vodka, and then you go and sit on the swings after dark and drink your vodka. So that was the drink back then. And do you know what? I hate vodka, but I think I hate gin more. But I think I hate tequila even more than those two put together. Like tequila is just like it's like paint stripper. It's absolutely horrible. And I drink it because, you know, social sort of things. Everyone goes, yeah, let's drink this. And it's just horrible. Just burns my throat on the way down. It's drinking fire. Betty Biscuit says, hi, everyone. Al says Trump is having a Twitter meltdown. Yeah, he sent 70 messages, I think, in the last 24 hours. 70 messages. That's quite impressive. There were very excited teenage girls who don't post that many messages, things on TikTok in 24 hours. Chubby says, I always drunk real ale. Now more craft ale. I don't know the difference. Never thought my drink would be a milk stout. What? A milk stout? So when you see a Guinness and it looks all milky, that can't be real milk. No, it can't be. Do you know Guinness isn't kosher? Yeah, because they use fish in the processing of the Guinness. It's not vegan either. Do you think with what Cummings knows, he will spread some dirt on the Tories? That's an interesting question, John. I don't think that he will, because I think they've got enough dirt on him as well. And they've done him some favours, haven't they? He didn't get arrested for coming up here to Durham to get some babysitting because he couldn't get any in London from his family that lived in London. And then he didn't stay at his parents' house. He stayed at another house on the massive sprawling estate, which the council didn't know about. So by telling them that he stayed at a different house, he put his foot in it, and anyone else would have had to pay £30,000 of back taxes on the council house, and probably have to, on the council tax, like Dominic Cummings would ever live in a council house. No, you have to pay that back. And obviously, right, you'd have to demolish the building and rebuild it because he hadn't got permission to build the building in the first place. But they got that waived. They just got that waived. And then he went to Barnard Castle to test his eyesight, and that got waived as well. So I think if the Tories turned on Dominic Cummings, they could probably just put him in jail, at least for a few years. Please do. I'm running out of message space here. I'm having to scroll down a little bit. Incidentally, when I started visiting London in 1997, there seemed there was no racism and everyone seemed to get along. Slightly changed after June 2016. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I've got a good friend of mine. She's of Moroccan descent, and basically she's from Liverpool. She's never had any racial abuse in her life. She's the same age as me. And then after the Brexit referendum, someone just started having a go at her in the pub, saying, go back where you came from. And she was shocked and mortified. And I think she said, like, what, down the road, because that's where I'm from. What are you talking about? But Brexit hasn't half empowered the racists and the bigots and the xenophobes to think that they're right and they've got a point when they really, really don't. I think that's one of the worst parts of Brexit is the nastiness that it unleashed on the nation. No, One of the worst parts. There are many others. Ascended said, I had a dream of moving to the Netherlands. Never going to happen now. Ascended, we will make it happen. We'll get back in the EU. Don't worry. One day. We just got to fight for it. And we'll have a plan as well, which the Brexiteers don't have. They've never had. They've had 43 years to come up with a plan. They haven't got a plan. They never had a plan when they had the election, when they had the referendum. They never had a plan when we activated Article 50. We didn't have a plan when we actually left the EU, and we were in a transition period. And now it's a month and a half till we pull out. And yeah, we still don't have a plan. And you go on the government website, and there's fuck all information there for you, especially if you own a business. Yay. I love Lamar too. Okay. Probably could fall back on the fact that I'm half Hungarian. A Hungarian called Attila. Phil says, I wonder if the new Immigration Act would mean that Trump would be barred from traveling to Scotland in the event of conviction. Well, if he was convicted, I would assume he would die in jail, because he would be convicted for some serious tax offences and possibly treason, conspiring against the United States, perjury, obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice is a big one, because he definitely did it, and he admitted he did it, and he doesn't care because he thought he was going to be president for life. Doesn't look like that's happening now. And the reason why he won't concede to Biden is because he's scared of going to jail. And as I said yesterday, the reason why his hair was white in his press conference yesterday is because he's going to go down the old, oh, look at me, I can't walk. And he'll turn up in a wheelchair, and he'll be like, I'm too frail to go to jail. The Pinochet defense. So I think that's what's going to happen next. I really hope the Americans aren't dumb enough to fall for it. Sorry, daft enough. Mad Dog 2020 has a nice burn. If you like a good burn, I do. If I'm going to get a good burn, it's from a whiskey, but I tend to like the mellower whiskies. But Mad Dog 2020 was the drink for smuggling into the cinema in the mid 1990s, when you were too young to go to a pub. Phil's saying they add lactose. Oh my god. Okay, so they add lactose to stout, but isn't most of the world's population lactose intolerant? John Redwood going batshit crazy on Twitter. Yes, Al, you're absolutely right. John Redwood has completely lost the plot, and he's like, the EU single market has destroyed us. It's destroyed. You know, he's sitting there with his thumb, I assume. Or maybe he's dictating it to his nanny. I don't know. But he's saying the EU is the cause of all our woes. And you know, we were only the 5th biggest economy in the world because of that pesky EU. We were on course to be the 4th. There would have only been America, China, which are massive countries, and Japan, which has more than twice the population of the UK. Yeah. Yeah, okay. What else have we got? They stopped using the fish scales. Sounds fishy. Okay, fair enough. I'll be prepared to take that on faith. Is it so it's halal now that it's not got fish scales in? Because that wouldn't work because it's alcoholic. Okay, crap joke. Hi, Graham. Greetings from Netherlands, I think, unless you're from New Zealand. Is there a chance of a return of the Three Blokes original group in a Zoom pub? I doubt it. It's so hard to get hold of those guys, especially Kieran. He'll call me up when he's driving somewhere and he's shouting down the phone. So hard to hear him, and he'll be talking about something and pointing loads of amazing things out to me. And I'm like, Kevin, can we talk about this on Zoom? And he's like, yeah, you know, and never happens. But it would be nice. Guinness is totally vegan. Okay. All right. Calm down. Getting shouted at now by John Austin Byrne. I'm sorry, John. It used to not be. It's fully vegan and kosher and halal. It's not halal. It's alcohol. Okay. Tom Monk says, hi, folks. Hi, Tom. Jobai says Guinness doesn't use finings; it's vegan, unlike milk stout, which uses lactose. Okay, you're educating me. I'm learning all the time. Mark Lamar was fucking hilarious. He was. Graham, that's a good point about normalizing racism. Same thing with Trump here in the States. Yeah, it's absolutely what it's done. The thing called the Overton window, isn't it? It's that thing of what's acceptable in society. And it moves a little bit to the right, it moves a little bit to the left, and then sometimes it just lurches one way or the other. And this lurch has normalized behavior from our leaders that we would not have tolerated 10 years ago. We would have been like, no, you got to resign, you got to leave. You can't stay in your post, having been in charge when such a terrible event has happened or mismanaged. 50,000 people dead in the United Kingdom, 250,000 people dead in the US. Would you have put up with that with Obama? No. Would you have put up with that with George W. Bush even? No. Would you have put up with that with Clinton? No. No one would have put up with it with those presidents. They would have gone, oh my God, we've got to get rid of this guy. He's an absolute bloody nightmare. Look how many Americans are dead. But because Trump and Johnson and Cummings and Brexit, they've moved the Overton window so far to the right now, things that were massively completely unacceptable just a few years ago are massively important, massively acceptable now. Unfortunately acceptable now, I should say. And that's awful. The one stat that just really stuck in my mind was, I think it was a British Attitude survey from 2010, so it's 10 years ago. And it asked people what the most important thing was in politics, essentially. What was their most pressing concern in life? And most people said, for the government. And most people said the NHS, education, housing, benefits, all this kind of stuff. And only 1% said the most important thing was the EU. 1%. And we've gone from 1 to 100 in the space of just a few years, which is kind of crazy. I put a thing on Facebook before saying, when apartheid finally ended in South Africa, it was pretty easy because there was no social media for people who had kind of supported it for a long time to just go, oh no, I never supported that. No, I was never down for apartheid. That was always a bad idea. Yeah. Oh, people in the pub will be like, yeah, I'm sure I remember you saying something about that like 7 years ago. Yeah, okay, whatever. And even when the Iraq War happened, I was a Labour member at the time. And I couldn't get my head around it. And I remember having a conversation with one of my school friends, my old school friends, about it and saying, I don't get it. I don't understand why, if you have a problem with one man, Saddam Hussein, you invade a country. It just seems like the most horrific way to do anything. It's collective punishment on an insane scale. You've got a bad leader. That's not your fault. He's there because he's a dictator. And so we're going to invade your country to take him out. You're welcome. But at the time, you found quite a few people who supported going into Iraq and thought that it was a good idea. I mean, the late, great Christopher Hitchens thought it was a good idea. That was one of his policies. Well, he wasn't a politician, so not a policy, but one of his beliefs that I always thought was wrong was that he thought that America and Britain were right to go into Iraq. They were not right to go into Iraq. And that, to me, was something when the UN says nah, and NATO says nah. And you're like, well, is there any real justification for this? Oh, we've got this dodgy dossier, so we'll go and do it. But at the time, some people went along with it and went, okay, yeah, fair enough. But then after it turned out to be the bloodbath that it was very easy because there was no social media to say, oh, I never supported it. Yeah. And I always thought it was a bad idea. But you can't do that with Brexit, because everyone who has supported Brexit pretty much has made it very clear that they support Brexit on social media over the last few years. Every tweet has been recorded, every post, every like, every comment, every video, everything. And so it's going to be very difficult come January for people to go, oh, I knew it was going to be a bad idea all along. Yeah. I never voted for it. I definitely didn't vote for it. If you had been posting on your Facebook for the last 4 years, yeah, Brexit, yeah, go WTO, it'll be a bit difficult. So that should be interesting in come January. Hope no one's making a list like Santa. Attila's saying we just need to get into the single market. Attila, yeah, I was thinking about that today actually. The single market, there's no reason why we can't be part of the single market. No one voted to pull out the single market, and I think that's going to be what the big argument was with Cummings. Forget about this all this stuff about Princess Nutnuts and all that nonsense. I think that's all just whatever, tittle tattle. They're just horrible people. Of course, they're going to be horrible to each other. They're horrible people. But yeah, I think that one of the things is, why don't we just stay in the single market and the customs union, and then we don't have to worry about all these lorries being parked in Kent. Oh, we have something else that came out today. That lorry park in Kent, it's being built on a floodplain. in the middle of flood season. Dr. Richmond says you can still move to the Netherlands. You have a month and a half. I don't think it's that easy, Dr. Richmond. I think you've got to like have some money and somewhere to live and people that you know. Just saying. Betty Biscuit says, "Hi Tom. Yes, the Proud Boys have proclaimed their anti-Semitism. They're definitely racist. Yes, they are. But they're very proud that they're boys, which is weird. Oh wow, I think we're going through a lot of these quite fast. I'm going to have to go back a little bit. That's how they got Al Capone. Nursing mothers used to be encouraged to drink milk stout, apparently. Yeah, but nursing mothers used to be encouraged to smoke, for God's sake. We were talking about that the other day. Where we had the doctors on TV going, I smoke and it's never done me any harm. Yeah, they didn't see their 60th birthday, though. Betty, there's a YouTube channel called All Gas No Brakes, which has some reports on Proud Boy rallies. Oh, God. If you want to watch a good little YouTube video, I think it's on YouTube. It might be on Vimeo. It's John Safran. He's an Australian comedian, and he did a series called John Safran versus God, where he sort of test drove all these different religions. It was really funny. It had some great moments in, but my favorite bit was he went to America to see if he could join the Ku Klux Klan. And it was only halfway through his interview for joining that he disclosed that he was actually, in fact, Jewish. And the guy's face is a picture. He's like, you do know we are the leading anti-Semitic organization in the United States. And John Safran's like, yeah, but you used to be anti-Catholics. And now you're asking for Catholics to join. And the guy's like, yeah, well, things change. He's like, well, might change again. What if I get with a Catholic girl and we have a half Jewish, half Catholic son? Could he join the KKK? And you could see the two little brain cells in this KKK Grand Wizard's head going around, and he's like, maybe. And then it just hits to a splash screen. It's like, are you a half Jewish, half Catholic who wants to join the KKK? Dial this number. But yeah, so it's a hard mindset, isn't it? To go, oh, all these people, all these millions of people who look a bit different to me are bad, and they look different in a specific way. It's not to do with eye color. It's not to do with hair color. It's not to do with height or stature or build or the way you speak. Really, it's just to do with one particular variety of the way people look. And to go, all those people are bad. All those people, every one of them, they're all bad. And then they have to start making exceptions when they realize they quite like, Samuel L. Jackson, or they quite like Frank Bruno, and they're like, oh yeah, but they're the exception. You're like, oh, for God's sake, it's just a hard conversation to have with someone who is of that mindset. One of the ones that I always stick to when people go, when white people say, why can't you use the N-word? They use the N-word, and I go, well, could I call your brother or your sister a flaming arsehole? They'd be like, no, that'd be really rude. I'm like, yeah, but can you? I'm like, yeah, I can, because they're my brother, they're my sister. And I'm like, exactly, they're your family. You can say what the hell you like. They're your family, they're your people. But when it's someone else from outside your family saying something horrible about your family, sorry, that's not on. That's just basic decency. And this question comes up time and time again, because obviously we can't use political correctness anymore, because I don't know, it's just not used anymore. The right wing has moved on to a new terminology, and one of them is virtue signaling, which we discussed the other day with the poppy, and also woke. And people go, what does woke mean? What is woke? And woke basically means political correctness. It's interchangeable. And the thing is, political correctness doesn't really exist. It's just manners. It's just being a nice person and treating people with respect. So let's do away with woke and virtue signaling and political correctness, because political correctness, hang on, do you think that the leading politician in this country, Boris Johnson, is politically correct? Do you think that the president of the United States right now, not for much longer, but do you think he's politically correct? No. So the term is meaningless. He has no respect. Boris Johnson as well, he has no respect. So that's what we should call it, just respect. But nothing to do with that George Galloway party that was a bit short-lived. Yeah, George, he could learn some respect. Anyway, The difference between real ale and craft ale is £5.50 a pint. Chub, what? Betty Biscuit, we can only hope, but I think you're right. At least they've exposed themselves for all to see. Oh, you just put a really bad mental image in my head there, Betty. Thanks. Patrick said, I just got here, crap internet. It's always been mentioned that the software for the UK Northern Ireland trade will definitely not be ready. Letter to the government by the director of the software factory, software company. Yeah, Patrick Baker, thank you. That's a very good point. I haven't mentioned this yet because I forgot. But basically, yeah, the systems that are supposed to be in place, and it's not just Northern Ireland, it's the systems that are supposed to be in place down in Kent, down in Dover, to facilitate trucks, lorries getting off this island and presumably onto them as well, isn't going to be ready for January the 1st. It's going to come to a real crunch. And I think there's only two options available to the government. Another transition year. And what they'll do is they'll say it's not a transition. They'll come up with a different name. They'll call it like the implementation period or something like that. I'd like to copyright that right now, by the way, in case they call it that. And then I can say, I copyrighted that, I can have some money. But they'll probably call it an implementation period. And we will stay in the customs union and the single market for another year until they sort out what they're going to do. So they'll kick the can down the road. That's one option. Another option, I guess, is a full transition for another year, but that'll be politically toxic for them, considering they've gone on and on about how great Brexit's going to be, and they're like, but we're not ready for it. Or no deal. And I really can't see them going for no deal. I mean, I might be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again. I swear it. It's the one thing I am absolutely 100% right about, is that I'll be wrong again. But the thing is, the EU want a deal. They don't want and this isn't to do with the German car industry coming over the hill to rescue us. Oh, it's the German car industry. Thank God you fellas are here. It's not about that. It's about they don't want a failed state on their doorstep, because you have a failed state and it creates havoc for all of the countries around it. You look at the way the troubles in Afghanistan spread and Iraq spread across the Middle East. You saw the way that the Rwandan genocide of 1994 led to instability in the countries around Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo, led to the two Congolese massive civil wars that they had, in which millions of people died at the end of the 90s, that no one seems to know about. Nobody ever talks about it. They'll vaguely remember a small outbreak of Ebola in Nigeria at the time, when about like 12 people died. But that thing where millions of people died, no one talks about it. But yeah, having an unstable state in your midst is a really, really bad thing. So they would want, they don't want us to fail. They don't want us to be asking for handouts and food drops and things. So it's in their it's in their moral interests to keep us afloat, but also keep us in a box and make sure that we don't undercut them, that we don't allow Chinese goods to come in that are not allowed to be sold in the EU. A good example of this is it the Brompton bike or something like that? It's the folding bike. They cost £750 to buy because it's a British company, and it just costs more to build stuff here. Probably because the minimum wage is £8.20 around there. And then you've got the same bike, which can be made in China for £250. It's less than half price. And so the EU protected against what's called dumping, which is these cheaper knockoff versions coming over from China. Interesting fact, I think that big phone companies make their own cheap knockoffs of their products to sell in developing nations. It's kind of a bit weird. They must have like a factory where they make the stuff on the license from the companies, but they also have another conveyor belt going around putting in substandard parts for phones that are just cheaper to make, and basically the more expensive phones, I guess, subsidize the cheaper ones. I don't know how it works, but if you go to buy a phone in Africa, or Central America, South America, or around Asia, you'll often find there'll be cheap sort of knockoff versions of your favorite brands of phone. Maybe not Apple, but definitely Samsung. And that's dumping. That's where you've got the real version, and then someone makes a cheaper exact copy of it, and then they sell that, and obviously it undercuts it. The EU has a law against that, so you can't just import stuff from China unless the EU have signed off on the fact that it wouldn't classify as dumping. The UK is pulling out of that, so the guy who owns the folding bike shop, who said Brexit's nothing to worry about, is probably going to go bust. But also it means that if we do allow that to happen, we could buy a load of folding bikes from China, and then if it's still in the single market, we could sell them into Europe, and that would undercut them, obviously. So they've got to put things in place to make sure that we don't get up to any of those kind of shenanigans. And it's in our interest not to do that. It's in our interest not to get no deal, despite what the lunatics say, like John Redwood. So yeah, I can't really see any other way out of it. You know, kick the can down the road for another year, or no deal. I can't see no deal. So I think it's going to be kick the can. Let's see. Let's put some money on it. Let's put some money where your mouth is. Monopoly money. Right. Betty, I think we're stuck with these nuts for a while. Yep. £5.50. £5.50. I thought £3 was expensive for a pint. Holy crap! Yeah, I send it. I'm from Liverpool, mate. I mean, seriously. Until fairly recently, it was still £1 a bottle in the Jacaranda and the Pilgrim on Pilgrim Street, Pilgrim Road, Pilgrim Lane, Pilgrim Street. I think it still is £1. I got my friends from London to go into a pub in Liverpool. I go, buy these, and they go, they give them like a £20 note, and they get like £15 back. I'm like, what the? How have I got so much money? Anyway, Tony Blair would have resigned for now for being so shit. I think he would have, even though he's a big egomaniac as well. At least he did stand down. Don't forget, Germany went for the most liberal society in Europe in the 30s to the most hardline conservative in the 30s. It's very true. And it's a real shame. I mean, the hyperinflation was because of the war reparations, the Weimar, the Treaty of Versailles. That was the big problem with sort of Germany getting back on its feet. And the Weimar Republic had pretty much dealt with it by 1933 when the Nazis got into power. And again, it's one of those things where the narrative that the Nazis like to sell was like, oh, we had all this hyperinflation and we came and saved you from it, and we made the economy really good again, and they didn't. That someone else did all the hard work and they just came and took all the credit. That sounds like something that conservatives would do. Anyway, moving swiftly on. I didn't realize until yesterday how many cameo roles in movies and TV shows Trump had played. Not a terrible actor, actually, not the worst I've seen. Presumably he was just playing himself. Betty Biscuit said, I just read that today, Patrick. Darren Christian, will the euro survive the economic shock of COVID? The ECB, the European Central Bank, cannot force austerity back on the southern European countries or risk strengthening the populist and popular further division within the EU. I think the euro will survive. I mean, although it has been a troubled economy, troubled currency, if you want to call it that, it's still outperformed the pound every month since the Brexit vote. It's got, with the will and determination of France and Germany behind it, they're two of the world's biggest economies. I can't see it failing in that respect. But there is that fundamental problem with the euro, is that you have different interest rates, I think, depending on different countries on borrowing. That's something that Brexit's ruined for the UK as well. We used to have a AAA credit rating, so it was really cheap to borrow money. But we've lost that, so we're paying higher interest rates now on government borrowing from other countries and from other private lenders or whatever they get the money from, which is a bit shit because people don't trust us as much as they used to. I wonder what will happen in the Premiership next year. Oh my word, there's so many. Oh my God, I've got so many messages to go through. Can you slow down? There's been underlying racism in our politics for at least 50 years. The Southern strategy of Nixon was to capitalize on the passage of the Civil Rights Act. Yeah. There's been underlying racism in society since year dot, but that's not to say that we should excuse it in any way. It's something that we must continually fight against and try and defeat in people's minds. It's a battle of hearts and minds. That's what it is. And unfortunately, like being gay, I mean, it's not like being gay, but being homophobic, it's one of those things where it usually takes someone who you're very close to or someone that you're really fond of to turn out to be gay, or have a friend who's black, and then you make friends with that person, and they realize, oh wow, you're not all the dreadful people that I've been told all my life that you are. And that process is going to take a long time. I think that was pointed out by The Simpsons in the 90s, by the way, in the John Waters episode with the mechanical Santa Clauses attacking Homer, and John Waters basically saves him. That episode is notable for one of my favorite jokes in The Simpsons, which is where Marge is trying to let Homer know that his new best friend is gay, and she says he drives on the other side of the road. And Homer's response is, what? He's British? Made me laugh anyway. Okay, so anyway, we don't have time for everyone to make friends, but that's what the internet was supposed to do, wasn't it? It's supposed to allow you to make friends with people all over the world, but instead of doing that, it's allowed people to make friends with nutters who share their same crazy beliefs on the other side of the world. Yeah, bit of a backfire, that one, Tim Berners-Lee. So that was a joke, by the way. I love that guy. I wonder what will happen at the Premiership next year. Aren't all European players considered foreign players from then on? Not covered by freedom of movement. Yeah, but I think they got the money to pay for the work permits. Apparently, he assisted on a cameo in 8 films featuring his properties. What a tit. Bush was pushed into the Iraq War by Cheney and Rumsfeld and the right wing of the GOP. Huge mistake, yeah. But Bush was an idiot. I mean, he always was. He just wasn't all there, was he ever? And it was basically a Cheney presidency. He was the guy who was doing all the work behind the scenes. Betty saying, I wish Hish was still with us. I'd love to hear his take on the 4 years of Trump. Oh, he was just torn him a new arse every single day. Yeah. Maybe if he was still with us, Trump wouldn't have got in. But I don't think he had any love for the Clintons. So who knows what he would have said in the 2016 election. Ascender said Johnson can't do a US trade deal with Trump as he lost, and can't do one with Biden either before the transition period ends because of the Logan Act. So hopefully we might get a deal with the EU. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I think Cummings has gone, because he said, no, I want no deal. I want to crash out, disaster capitalism. All my hedge fund mates will make loads of money. Ha 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 ha. And they've said we can't do that because we're in the middle of the biggest economic and social crisis in living memory. I think at least we knew we were. Well, I suppose with the war. Okay, since the war, post-war. The single market was our idea in the first place, championed across Europe by Margaret Thatcher. Yeah, thanks, Maggie. I'm saying thanks, Maggie here, not thanks, Maggie, Margaret Thatcher. But yeah, there's a number of like things that Britain really pushed for. One was expansion of the EU. One was a single market. One was freedom of movement. We were pushing for these things, and then we got them and went, oh, we don't want them. What? But yeah, since we mentioned Thatcher, obviously I'm from Liverpool, not great lover of Thatcher and her politics, but don't attack me, Liverpool, Gaz. Just put the weapon down, Gaz. No, her response to the CFC crisis, the hole in the ozone layer in the 1980s, was remarkable. Now, Thatcher, for all her ills, she was a scientist. She had a degree from Oxford University in, I think, chemistry. So like Angela Merkel, she could read a scientific paper, and she was presented with the scientific fact that chlorofluorocarbonates, or whatever they're called, CFCs, were responsible for thinning the ozone layer, especially in the southern hemisphere. And what would happen as a result of that, obviously, increase the number of people in Australia or around the world getting skin cancer, but also the detrimental effect that it has on the Antarctic and other places around the world. And she helped lead the worldwide moratorium on CFCs in fridges and in aerosols. And we had a worldwide ban. There was a worldwide ban of them. And that was spearheaded by Thatcher, which, credit where credit's due, I guess. Of broken clocks right twice a day, whatever. But someone like that now who can read a scientific paper and say, oh shit, half the Great Barrier Reef is dead. Fact that I'm going to try and shoehorn into every single one of these episodes of Hughes at 10, is something that I feel like she, it's something that we need right now, and we don't have. We just have populists who just tell people what they want to hear. Loved Hitch, but he was wrong about Iraq. Yeah, Tom, I feel you. What about the idea of Kanazuk? Well, the problem with that is Canada's quite a small country. I think its population is about 40 million. It's smaller than the UK. Australia is much smaller. It's only 25 million, and New Zealand is just 4.7 million. It's not many people in each country compared with the EU, which is 450 million. But the big problem with the idea of us having this sort of English Anglosphere deal is the big problem is it's economic gravity. The rule that you trade more with people near you, which makes sense, than people who are far away. The more miles your goods have to travel, the more chance there is of something cocking up. And obviously, people who produce the same stuff nearer to that place than you are going to be able to undercut you at every corner because they can get that stuff over there cheaper than you can. So there are a lot of problems with places being on the other side of the world. And one big problem that people go, oh, we got this amazing trade deal with Papua New Guinea. And you're like, oh, great, Papua New Guinea, wonderful. Okay, what time zone are they in again? And this is the thing. If you want to do business with a company that is literally on the other side of the world, you better stay up all night, or you better get them to stay up all night to have the conversation, because you're not working at the same time. Your 9 to 5 is not their 9 to 5. In fact, it probably is, but it's 9 to 5 overnight, whereas yours is during the day. So it makes it a big problem. I had a friend in Australia who worked for an American company, and her hours were literally 11 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. They were her hours every day during the week. And she was knackered at the weekend, but she had to keep American hours. She had to work when America was up. And that was the time that she was told that she had to work. So she did. So when it comes to stuff like that, it's just the practicalities. Even if you're going to say, oh, well, Graham, you're only worrying about goods and we don't produce that much stuff anyway. Let's not worry about that. Let's just worry about services. You'll have to stay up all night if you're dealing with someone in California, or you're dealing with someone in Japan or New Zealand or Australia, obviously. It's not very sociable hours. I'll just say that. I used to live in Ashford, where the lorry park is. On the only plus side of the lorry park is that local authorities have planned to build little houses there. But don't we want houses, Phil? Isn't that what we... Oh, okay. Chubai says, it's a joke, some craft ales. Are you talking about craft ales again? Go away. All gas, no brakes. That sounds like me when I eat cabbage. Good times. Proud Boy sounds like a gay male strippers troupe. It really does. It's quite exciting. I like it. It's a great name for a group of men who like to groom themselves meticulously and go out and be very flamboyant with flags and things on the streets and snazzy dress sense. Hi, Graham. Did you see David Lammy on Question Time the other night? He was talking about a Brexit extension. No, Charlie, I didn't actually see that, but yeah, okay. I'll hand the baton over to David Lammy, who's one of my favorite politicians. He is absolutely brilliant. I'd love to see him as leader. Yeah, he's on the right track. Are you watching The Voice tonight? Asked Toy Club. No, but the girls have just watched Strictly Come Dancing. I'm really quite enjoying Bill Bailey. He's just a legend, isn't he? Just absolutely, I love him. Tom Monk says, I remember as a kid, maybe 55 years ago, the KKK stopped cars on the streets in Georgia to ask for money. I remember wondering why my dad didn't donate to this charity. Yeah, just disgraceful. But then in our country, private schools that charge £30,000 a term a year for your kids to go and learn to be privileged little shits. They're charities as well. Somehow, Scientology is a charity, tax exempt. Difficult to tell. You're talking about KKK or Brexit. Same mindset. Yep. If Keir Starmer pushes for an extension, do you think a U-turn is possible? I don't know. I think there's a lot of people who actually have to experience Brexit to understand what an absolute cock-up it's going to be. But yeah, there's a good 33% of the population who honestly would die for Brexit to happen. Or at least, no, maybe they wouldn't die themselves, but they'll definitely sacrifice their children. They'll definitely sacrifice their firstborn on an altar with a knife. You know, please let Brexit happen. They're a bit mad about it. There was one guy when I was on the Bollocks to Brexit bus. We went down to like Norfolk, and there's a guy there who I forgot what town we were in. It might have been Ipswich or somewhere, and he had a Nevermind the Bollocks album, and he came over and he was screaming about the EU ruining music. They ruined punk. The EU ruined punk. Bastards. And it was just like, how do we get through to these people? He's got it in his head that the EU ruined punk music. Okay. Fucking ABBA, I guess, before they joined. Anyway, as Graham said, join customs union single market until you find a way to go forward or backwards or stay. Yeah, I think that's the sensible way out of it. The connotations of the N word are different from coming from a white person. Slave owners address their slaves as their N, implies being owned. Yeah, Phil, you're absolutely right. It's not acceptable. And I had a conversation with someone there was a group of people who were staying at my place in Panama, on my island, and one of them used that word, and I said I don't want that word used, and they were like, but we're all white here. No one's being offended. And I'm like, I'm offended that you think that I think that it's okay for you to say that. That offends me. So it don't have to be black to go, that's an offensive thing to do, what you've just done. And again, it went back to, but Samuel L. Jackson says it in Pulp Fiction. And you're like, yeah. But anyway, going over old territory there. Can't we just all get along, live and let live? It's generally worked. Yeah. My wife is Dominican and mixed race. Dominicans are pretty racist too towards Haitians, unfortunately. Yeah. And plus, you can be a Dominican and you can be from Dominica, or you can be a Dominican and you can be from Dominican Republic. It's like you can be Congolese from Congo, or you can be Congolese from the Democratic Republic of Congo, or you can be Nigerian from Nigeria, or you can be Nigerian from Niger. Okay, I'm going to just get off this subject now. And don't get me started on the Guineas. Graham is comparing Brexit to genocide. What? I'm not quite comparing it to genocide. I think you got the wrong end of the stick there. But we've already seen 50,000 people die under the Tories' misrule, but mishandling of COVID. And if we see medicine shortages because all of the medicines are stuck at the border, then people are going to die. It won't be genocide, because genocide has to be targeted against the group, I think. But maybe it will be genocide. It's targeted against people who are sick, people who are old, trying to wipe them out like what Idi Amin did to the disabled people of Uganda in the 1970s. I don't know. I don't think it will get that bad, but it's certainly on the road to it. So it's certainly not completely out of the realms of possibility at this time, unfortunately. A failed state draws trouble towards it. It's very true. Just look at Somalia. It's jumped again. It keeps jumping. I'm scrolling on my screen. Oh wow, got loads of messages. I don't think I'm going to get finished in the next 10 minutes. Can I just skip a load? I'm going to skip a load. Sorry if you've put a Chichilian moment is coming from Boris. Major U-turn. We tried, but a good deal, but failed. The best for our great nation is to stay in the single market and rebuild the economy from there. Maybe. But if we leave the customs union, we're still going to have queues at the border. Yeah. And also, if we do that with customs union, we're also going to have the big problem of we're not going to have our own sovereignty over what we can buy from other countries, because we'll still be beholden to EU laws on anti-dumping and things like that. Jared Bendis says, hi, Jared. Hi. Directors could always choose to edit out Trump. Some films, as a matter of course, knowing they would never use it. Nice one. If Trump had won, Cummings would still be in the post. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. My first name is the only thing I've ever shared with Thatcher. Thanks, Maggie. I hear you. I hear you. Have you seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix? Yes, I have. It's very, very, very good and very, very scary. And I've got to keep my thumb on my phone to stop it turning off, because if it turns off, my mic goes off, and I just feel like I'm so attached to this damn thing. I went for a walk yesterday here in Durham. And I realized that, once I was at the house a little bit, that I left my phone in the house. And honestly, even though I wasn't intending to look at my phone, I had a little mild panic attack. I had a mild panic attack that was like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Like if you've lost your wallet in a club, it was the same feeling. I don't like that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and set things up. So next year, I have times off social media and away from news, like just have maybe a few hours or even a few days where I just disconnect and then come back. One of the joys of traveling on cargo ships, I found, was that disconnect, was the fact that you left your home port and you'll be at sea for a week or even more. And that whole time, you would have so little information about what was happening in the rest of the world. You had no internet. You didn't have phone coverage. There just wasn't any of that 24-hour news coming in. And you worry that something bad might happen to someone that you know and love, and you won't find out about it for a week. But at the same time, it's kind of liberating not having to check on the news all the time. Thatcher was also responsible for the Common Fisheries Policy and the Common Agricultural Policy. Yeah, wasn't the fisheries agreed in like 1985 or something? Wasn't the London Fisheries Act or something? I think Maggie was opposed to gas-fired power stations, both in terms of environmental grounds as well as energy security and access to hydrocarbon resources. Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, I might do a whole episode on green fuel and green efficiency, because we talked about nuclear a bit last week. But the fact that we have ways now of making energy that are efficient and don't use carbon based, they're not carbon based, taking that out of the system for general usage. Obviously, you're still going to need it for industrial uses for a while, but for domestic use, we can probably just make the switch very, very rapidly if we did our bit against global climate change on a war footing. And this is something that I've mentioned before in earlier podcasts, is whenever you have in a movie this idea that the whole human race get together and fight a common enemy. The only time is when we get invaded by aliens, and everyone rises up all around the world, and for some reason all the world's in the same time zone, so it's daytime everywhere. But you see all these clips from all around the world of people rising up and fighting the aliens in their own countries, and you think, oh yeah, humanity's finally got their act together because they're being attacked by an external threat. But the reality is, if aliens had the technology to make all the way across space and warp time or something to do that, and then arrive here, they would have the technology just to obliterate entire countries off the map. They wouldn't be bothering blowing up the Empire State Building. Why would they bother? They could just annihilate the whole of America in one fell swoop, or the North American continent. So, I mean, that's something where you think, actually, if aliens did come and they did have that kind of technology and they were really pissed off with us for some reason, they could wipe us out pretty easily. I mean, what they could do is just release a pathogen, an absolutely 100% deadly pathogen, just wipes out humans, and just release it. We've seen what's happened with COVID. So many people have got it. It would eventually kill everybody, and there'll be nothing we could do about it. So that's how aliens could wipe out everyone on Earth if they wanted to. They had the technology. But obviously in fiction, the aliens don't think to, I don't know, wear a bubble helmet when they go to someone else's planet, which seems a bit mad. In War of the Worlds, the original book, they died from a virus. But I guess aliens are presumably as daffy as the humans from Alien Covenant, who walk around on a planet with no bubble helmets on, when there could be anything in the air. Like Aliens, I don't know, terrible movie. Please don't watch it if you haven't already. And if you have watched it, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, what we're seeing now with global climate change is an existential threat. It's going to wipe out humanity if left unchecked. That's what an existential threat is. And it's a more uniting existential threat than an attack by aliens would be. Because an attack by aliens, I couldn't do shit about it. Maybe if you had access to nuclear weapons, I don't, or a jet plane, I don't. You could do something, but I don't have access to those things. I'll be absolutely useless. All I'll be useful for is, I don't know, slowing them down for a fraction of a second while they're trying to take out Denzel Washington or something. But with climate change, everyone can do something. Everybody on the planet can do their bit, and if they do, then, or do our bit, I should say, not their bit. We're not mandating this. The Paris Climate Accords are voluntary. That's something I keep pointing out to Trump fans. Like, oh, it's crippling our economy, and you're like, it's voluntary, but it would unite humanity against a common enemy, which is climate change, and we could all work together and change our lives in little ways that, individually don't do much, but as a collective, as the entire planet, it would change everything in the next 10 years. And we have to do it in the next 10 years. So we need leaders like Biden who are, gung-ho for actually doing something about climate change, doing something about it. So fingers crossed. I'm a lot less fatalistic than I was a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, I was like, there's literally no point because we're going to wipe ourselves out probably in my lifetime. But there's some hope. There's a glimmer of hope now, so long as Biden stays alive, gets into the White House. Well, actually, Kamala Harris stays alive as well. So listen, I'm just going to skip to. Oh no, I've only got a few. But I've got 3 minutes left. Graham, what do you think about Starmer? I think he's boring. I think he's really, really, really boring. I think he's the most boring man to ever have bored me senseless. But his voice doesn't annoy the shit out of me like Boris Johnson's or Jacob Rees-Mogg's or Jeremy Corbyn's. So, I like him. I wouldn't necessarily go for a drink with him, but he comes across very much as the sensible adult in the room when dealing with Boris Johnson. I think he's all right. The thing is, I'll tell you what I like about him. He's boring. No, I don't mean like that. I mean it like he will never get a personality cult around him like Corbyn did, or like Boris Johnson does, or like Trump does. I hate personality cults. I hate them. Whenever someone has a personality cult, I just, like I said the other day, I start off with the notion that this person must be a terrible person, because the only people who get personality cults are terrible people. And then you have to prove me wrong. It's up to them to prove me wrong. So yeah, that's just the way I look at it. Obviously, you have people like David Attenborough, who's amazing, but he doesn't have a personality cult, does he? I don't think he does. I don't think it's just someone that people like and go, yeah, I really like him. I don't see why you have to be sort of fawning and like, oh wow, everything this man says is amazing. Oh, he's so clever and out. Yeah. So I can't be dealing with that. So yeah, I like the fact that Starmer doesn't have a fan club. I like the fact that he's sensible. I like the fact that he just puts Boris Johnson to rights at every single question time, which shouldn't be hard to do. But I don't find myself getting as frustrated as I did watching Question Time with him, because he actually, Prime Minister's Question Time, because he actually does ask some of the questions that I would like to ask the Prime Minister if I was in that position, whereas Corbyn never did that. He never asked the fucking questions that I would have asked if I had been in the, screaming at the telly. Not good, not healthy. Right. Lammy is a top man and my MP. Yeah, go Paul. Dutch President with vinyl. Trump voters Ford hotline. Prank calls, yeah. I think there was the TikTokers, wasn't it, who prank called it. Churches get all their income from maintenance and paying the secretary and congregations, not the government. Yeah, but churches are a really good band with a V. Tom Monk, what are you talking about religion all of a sudden? The Church of England has a huge property portfolio. They could protect and monetize with gusto. Yeah, I always thought it'd be great if they turned all these beautiful old buildings into like saunas and stuff, and brothels and massage parlors and things like that, gambling dens. I don't know, just anything that Christians would not approve of. I thought that would be quite amusing, because there's a bar in Liverpool called Alma de Cuba, which was the old St. Peter's Church, and it's beautiful inside because it's a church, but it's also a bar, which is kind of fun. Gambling, yeah. Maggie, many of the preachers are worth millions. Yeah, we're talking about the Catholic Church and the evangelicals in America on TV. Oh my God, that's a conversation for a whole another day. Angela Merkel seems quite boring, but I'd rather have her leader as someone interesting. Yes, Phil, that's what I meant. I want someone boring at the moment. I want someone who's sensible and level-headed and just knows what they're doing and takes on the evidence and says, yeah, and makes good decisions and doesn't just play to the peanut gallery. It's very frustrating when people are just like, oh, yeah, aren't I really funny? Look at me, like Trump or Boris Johnson or Erdogan or any of those other clowns. I found Corbyn extremely dull. Yeah, I'm not saying Corbyn wasn't excessively dull. I think he was too, and he had a really annoying voice. But he had that cult around him, which was just, it was just depressing. It just got me down. It was like every time you say, oh, he's not really doing what he should be doing there. It was like you were shouted down, oh, you're a Tory. Go on, F off and join the Tory, you Tory. Go now, Tory. Like, this is the guy, me, who like went to nearly every single Remain march, but organised some of them, spoke at loads of them, and I'm like making videos on YouTube telling people how bad the flagship Tory policy is going to be. And yeah, I'm a Tory. I'm secretly supporting them. I'm being paid by Jacob Rees-Mogg to be his nanny. Sugar-Free said, I had a friend who lived in a church-owned property and they were pretty dreadful about getting him evicted. He went to the High Court, he lost. Bastards. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the big landowners. So was British Rail back in the day, wasn't it? Because all of the lines were owned by. So I guess it's Network Rail or whatever they call themselves these days. That'll be a big owner of land in the UK. Make the world dull again. Yes, Sugar-Free. I would like that. Well, no, make politics dull again. So I'm going to go out now. I've got to leave it. It's been over an hour. I've been yakking away. Thanks for all of your comments and your questions and your mentions. Reverse the benching cuts. Yes, there's benching. No, beaching. You just put beaching. Yeah, I could do a whole episode on beaching. Me and Adam did an episode about the Beaching Act, and we never finished it because I had to leave a little bit early and I had to run for the train in York. We were filming in York, and I got to the train station, like with all my equipment, me lights and my camera and everything. Get to the train station. And it comes up like the train's like 20 minutes late, and I'm like, oh, typical. But yeah, I was just going to go out on the fact that we need to make the world dull again. When I was a whippersnapper, when I was young, I'm getting so old now, I can say things like that. I remember when all this was fields, but also I remember when politics was really, really boring, and I like those days. I want to go back to those days where we didn't wake up every day going, oh God, what now? And I really, really want to go back to those days. I want to make politics boring again. And if you want your entertainment, watch The Mandalorian, watch Strictly Come Dancing, watch Bake Off. There's a million channels on television. There's so much content. Watch Battlestar Galactica, the remake. It was really good. Hardly anyone watched it. It was really good. Watch the first few seasons of Lost. That was pretty good. The Sopranos, The Wire. That was brilliant. Watch 6 Feet Under. That was fantastic. There's so many shows to watch that you haven't seen because, there's not enough time to watch everything. Every episode of Rick and Morty, absolutely brilliant. Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is the funniest thing that has been made and cleverest thing that's been made in the history of making things. It's a work of art, and yet hardly anyone in the UK has heard of it because it was on HBO, and I don't know what it was on the UK. Maybe Sky Atlantic, which no one watches. But yeah, anyway, make politics boring again. That is my message. That is, yeah, thank you. And I will see you again tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I'm going to go and do the washing up. Oh, glamorous life, I know. And then I'll probably just collapse in bed, asleep. Until then, I'll see you at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Hughes at 10, continuing all the way through lockdown. You lucky things. And I'll see you then. Bye, everyone.